Okay, so here we have this magazine. It's called Somerset Studios. This is the art of paper and mixed media. So when you go in it, I've just torn out the first page. Every page has got something in it, and I've had these for years. So this is 2012 that this was taken from, and I haven't brought it in such a long time. I just can't get it here. Anyway, so you know, look at the different images that you can see. Some of the lovely art that has been created, and you can cut this out with, you know, the person that, either with yourself, you know, if you're working on it yourself, or, you know, with somebody else. You can look through it and see what kind of things come up, like, you know, lettering. That might bring up, you know, the letters that they would receive when they were younger. Like I was telling my son, when we were younger, and we would send a letter to my grandmother, and it would take 3 weeks for her to receive, and then we'd wait for, you know, you'd send like gifts or some money or whatever it is, and then the general letter. And then you'd wait 3 weeks at anticipation for her to write back. It was just like, oh, you know, we've got a letter from Jamaica, you know, our grandmother. It was such a really funny feeling. And now snail mail seems to be a thing of the past. And, you know, you can communicate with somebody around the world so quickly. Anyway, so a lot of these things might spark conversations. So think about that. Think about all the images, and then some of them that you might cut out. So I've, in these magazines, I don't know whether they do now, but what they used to do was in the center have a free artist paper that you could then use for inspiration. So I would cut these out, and I would use them in sort of like making collage elements, or I like certain shapes, circles. I might, you know, make a tag, or it could be part of a background. So cut them all out. So let's have a quick look through this. So houses, boats, again, all of these can be interesting imagery. And some of the words, we've got nuggets of joy up here, so that could be something that could go into a collage piece. So you could cut out some words, cut out part of images. Again, it's full of colour. You can make even, so like from some of these pages, so I made a series of beads from one of the pages. So you could do that, and that could be an activity for next time. Or if they're able to make the beads, so you can make the beads for them, and then they could do an activity with the beads. So threading the beads onto some yarn and, you know, making things. Or you can do the activity of making the beads with them. And some of these colours will look really nice in beading. And even if you've got some of the writing as well. So that's the activity that I want you to try. And one of the things that I did was take, say, some of the imagery and cut it out. And then you can use that in a different way. And let me show you one of the things that I've done. So I cut out some shapes from the paper that I will, say, use in collage. I've cut out some house shapes. So you see you've got all of the nice already decorated bits there, and I then put some of them together. And so I could get like an encouraging word that meant something, that means something to me, and I could create that. The other thing I did was to create some tags. So I used the background papers and created some tags, and then I've decorated them, put a writing spot on them, but you would never know that it was, you know, taken from a magazine. So I've just added my own flavour to it, used it as a starting point. So they started out very similar to these, used them as a starting point. Now you've got the words there as well, and then decorated them. And in some I've made some smaller elements. Again, these are the cards. These are just added to card, just simply added. Some of the smaller bits that I've added, some of the images that I liked, I've used it as a collage to add to the card. And then I've cut up some smaller bits that can be used at some other later stage. But these are all, you know, some really nice things that you can do and create different shapes that you can use in your collage. And so, as we said, you can look at things that will help you express an emotion. We've got some older cards. So this came from a different magazine. The same Stampington, and this was the insert that they had. Some older pictures, but they might inspire, you know, the person that you're caring for to talk about their particular occupation that they had at the time, or, you know, a whole range of things, how they're feeling now. A painting or an image in the magazine might spark a memory of a feeling or something when they were young, or even the words. So you can't discount anything in terms of, you know, the love of books. These books are on the shelf. How many people now have books on a shelf? You know, a lot of people have electronic books. I still love holding books and feeling books. There's nothing like having the books in your hand. This page has got an artist who paints eggs, and they're so beautiful. They're very pretty. So if you were to take this and to even cut out some of the eggs or use it as beads, that would be a nice activity. You know, cut the page and use them as beads. So that's some of the things that you can do. So as we said, that this was the, you know, this is arts and health. So we also look at how, as a previous carer, looking at how I can incorporate art activities so that if somebody's a carer, they can either do it for this activity for themselves, but they can do it with somebody that they're caring for. And so this particular activity is one that you can do on your own, or you can do with somebody else. And it's looking at making different collages from magazines and putting together different compositions. And it's a nice activity just to, it's about just looking at colours and shapes and things that appeal to you, but then putting them together on card. And that is a nice activity to do. And it can be images that will reflect either your interests or your emotions, and it's a way to also talk about how that makes you feel. Like if you're caring for somebody, you could then ask them, you know, what is it about that image that you like, or what's your favorite color on this page, or, you know, how does that make you feel? And also that's part of the process in terms of, you know, having a conversation and talking about the different images. And sometimes these images spark memories from years ago that they can, you know, talk about. And try not to be too restrictive, try to be flexible. So if it does go down the road of, you know, oh, they start talking about different interests and things that they remember, don't say, no, 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 we've got to do a collage. It's just like, that's a nice activity. So go with the flow, as the word for the month, for the year. Go with the flow and incorporate that into the activity as well. And you can always come back and, you know, the next time you might have the images already pre-cut and looked at some that sparked the conversation, and then start from there. You know, you can pick up activities. So don't feel that it has to be, okay, this activity is supposed to be about collages, that's what we're going to do. But if it, you know, goes down and flows into a conversation, memories, use that as well as part of the activity. So let's look at this. Right, so I'm thinking about using these little houses, and so as I say, you know, cut up shapes and just see what it is that feels good as you're putting it down. I wanted to layer the house. I don't have a, oh yeah, I might use a different colour. I don't have an exact idea of what I want to do, but quite like, I might just use that on its own. I like that. Actually, yes, I might try and do something like layer them. Like that, and then use these little squares that I cut. Okay. So again, you might decide that you want to play with the supplies, or you say to, you know, the person that you may be doing this activity with, what shapes do you like? Or cut out the shapes and say which shapes do you like best, so they can actually see the shapes as opposed to having to try and remember what the shapes are called. I'm going to put that down here. And I want a circle for the sunshine. It doesn't matter that the sun is multicoloured. Going to trim this. So it's not about we're not looking for perfection, we're not looking for you know, things don't have to be exact as it would be in the world. I'm going to use these as the windows and leave those ones. Just going to cut up this and we'll just stick them on there. And again, they don't have to be, they're a bit wonky, but that's fine. And sometimes you create a piece and there's a message coming out that you didn't even realise. So you can look and see whether, actually I'm going to use this. And then as you cut up some of the papers, you're always going to have more fabric scraps to work with. Oh, I like this. It's I'm going to cut this out. the artist has created like a hot weather balloon and some stitching, and this tab bit that's attached says, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams, live the life you imagined." It's a quote by Henry David Thomas. So I want that to be like going up there. So I'm gonna have to cut out this. And so that's why it's good to, you know, like look through and see what elements there are that you can use. Now I can have him behind the house, and I'm going to separate this bit here and lift this bit up and have him peeping out the house like so, and then stick that. Right, so I used a white piece of paper just so that you can get a really good kind of, you know, look at it. But what I would have started with was, say, laid down a background paper and then added these on. And then the thing that I like doing is adding black ink. So we can either do that, or, you know, you can outline with, you can, you know, do an outline if you want, or paint, or think about what the element is that you like the best, or maybe what shapes do you really like. And as I say, think about when you first start this activity, there are other things that might come up. So whilst, you know, you're looking at what are the elements that you're attracted to, what are the on the page, what are the images that are coming up, there may be things that crop up for you, like it might take you back to another time, or it might take the person that you're working with back to a time, and explore that. Don't discount it and say, we've got to work on this particular image, this is the activity we've got to work on. But stay flexible and go with the flow of the activity, and you can always come back. You could do the activity another time, but you can work small so that it doesn't necessarily feel overwhelming. And you know, you could finish the pieces in a relatively short time, dependent on what else you're going to be. I'm feeling the rays of the sun. And you can use, you know, paint, you can use alcohol markers. I sometimes use alcohol markers for ease. And that's what I'm going to do on this page. So I'll just take out a selection. I'm not going for any colours in particular, I just take a handful and work with that. Okay, I've got a handful, and I'm just going to do a different colour for each of the rays. So that is the piece that I created. So I hope you have fun with this activity. And here's some more that I've done, as I showed you, I've made a tag, added the paper. This is just cardstock, and then added the paper, decorated it with some doodling and some ink and some paint in areas, and then these are encouraging cards, and this one's got a scripture on, so have fun. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's as I say, it's a nice activity to get on with, and you can do that anytime, you know, cut up the magazines and see what images you enjoy using. And as I said, I like using the Stampington and Somerset House are my favourite magazines, and it's just got, they've got so many, you know, really talented artists that they use, and some of the images are really nice. So again, using those in an activity, cutting them up and creating something from it is a nice, easy way, you know, especially if you have limited supplies. But it's just a nice, easy kind of exercise to do.